Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? It is August 31st, 2025, and I'm ridiculously tired. I got home at 3 a.m. from a gig last night. It's 10 o'clock as I'm talking about this, but this video isn't about that. This is the last day of RPG-A-Day 2025, and I'm doing 3 installments in this, so I'm doing the last 10 days, so from day 22 until day 31 of RPG-A-Day 2025. And so I'm going to start rolling the dice and seeing what we're going to actually talk about. Well, continuing from where we left off, day 22 is ally. And normally, when you have an ally, it's somebody that you call upon that's not really a benefactor or a patron. They're an equal. And perhaps, you might say that these people have an ally in this area. However, this is kind of an odd situation because you're going to the unknown. So after thinking about this for quite some time, actually, I decided that the ally, the potential ally they have, is the original colleague of their patron, who, after realizing that his communique had been intercepted, after maybe even being pursued by the nemesis of our patron, decided the only safe place for him to go was back here in these ruins, in which he has managed to hide, even hiding from the mysterious weird Ben Gunn character. And so he's been there for quite some time, surviving, waiting for things to blow over, too scared to really move into the ruins that much or to get the heck out of Dodge. But he's a potential ally. Doesn't know much, but he's on the party's side, if you will. Kind of weird. I had to think about that one, but that's what I came up with this time. Maybe you could have come up with something better. But let's go on to day 23. Day 23 was recent. Yes, recently. And it's modified because of our D4, and it's a mood, and it's envious. Recently envious. So I had to think about this for a little while, so I've decided that something within these ruins has recently become quite envious, not only of the party, but of human beings, of people. Why are they envious? They're envious of our ability to walk about on the face of the earth, in the sun, perhaps of our life itself. Something that maybe they knew that we had, but because of a very long time of no contact, had kind of forgotten about. It wasn't at the forefront of their minds, whatever kind of minds they have. But now, because they've been exposed to us, because they see us here, they become envious. And that envy might lead to something. Day 24 is reveal. And once again, I've rolled the mighty D4. It's modified by a question. It's modified by when. And so think about this for a second. I decided that these envious forces, creatures, whatever they are, they're going to reveal themselves, or would reveal themselves to the party, to any people that are there. But when would they do that? Only when the stars are right. Only when this confluence of, whatever things are supposed to happen in that prophecy that our crazy Ben Gunn character was thinking about. That's the only time that they actually reveal themselves to the hapless people that are there. Will this happen? Well, who knows? But if it does, how will that go? Day 24 is challenge. It's not modified, and I'm telling you, it's a challenge to do this in the sun because it's starting to get hot, and I really don't like that. But this isn't about that. Let's get back to the question. Day 25. In the spirit of not forcing anything, there's no specific challenge that the player characters have to face here. However, everything in this location is going to be challenging. And because of that, we have to set up some kind of difficulties, depending upon what system we're using. And so we're, able as a game masters to assign different challenges, different difficulties to various things. And I like to do that based upon not drama, but reality. Like, how hard would this really be? Even if it would be really neat for people to get to from, X to Y, well, how hard is that going to be? And so I've decided that, like in this area, it's going to be fairly challenging. Not because it has to be, but because, reason would make it fairly challenging. Some things might be easy, but a lot of things are going to be pretty freaking hard. Too bad for the party. But, that's how it goes. Day 26 is Nemesis. And, well, we've been talking about this poor guy for quite some time now. And it got modified by mood, which I found awesome. And it's modified by lucky. So thinking about this, I've decided that the arch nemesis of our patron feels pretty lucky. They're really, really hyper-confident right now. Everything is going their way in terms of intercepting this communique, being able to hopefully track the party to find this place, if in fact they did find the place. And so they're feeling really, really lucky, really, really confident. And nothing can go wrong for them. So this might be great. This might make them overconfident. Great for the party should they start to, have different opinions of what should happen, or, goals which do not align with one another. But that's how this person is feeling. Really, really lucky. Do you feel lucky, punk? Do you? Day 27 is tactic, and it's modified by a subject which happens to be person. This is great. So we're going to talk about the tactics of our nemesis and of the crazy loon that lives in the area, because they're very, very similar. The tactics of these individuals are to wait and to let the party get themselves into a bad position. Maybe if you're the nemesis, well, for both of them, do the work for us. You take on the dangerous risk. Very Indiana Jones. You do all the things, and like Belloc, we're going to come take whatever you find afterwards. Once you've, had all the risk, we're going to reap the rewards. So that's what this nemesis is really after. To be smart, to lie in wait, to play it safe. And perhaps for our Ben Gunn character, very similar, although he might be a lot more manipulative, trying to get people in the place where he can use them for what he thinks is supposed to happen, according to this great prophecy. So he might be a lot more manipulative, where even though our nemesis might believe in this as prophecy as well, what they really, really want is for other people to take the risk. They haven't survived this long and gotten this powerful by being stupid. You know what I mean? And player characters, on the other hand, well, they can be rather adventurous and stupid. I can tell you about the number of characters I've had that have gotten really, really hurt and even died because, well, their tactics weren't that awesome, but I did enjoy playing them. Well, it got so hot that my iPad overheated, so I had to put it in the freezer. But this video still isn't about that. Day 28 is suspense, and it's nostalgic suspense, according to our D4 and rolling on the mood table. And so, you know what? We've all had that feeling of suspense in role-playing games, and especially the first ones we played where we really didn't know what was going on, and that was there. Very often there's that real feeling of suspense that goes on with rolling the dice, not realizing what's going to happen, or maybe the game master had us in a situation where it was very suspenseful. And a lot of times we can be very nostalgic for that, as well as a lot of other things that we experienced in our early role-playing experiences. Now here, in this situation, you could be tempted as a game master to create that suspense and do lots of things in order to create the suspense. You don't have to create it. The players create it. The way you describe things really has a big influence on how suspenseful things feel. Because as my friend Anthony has pointed out over and over again, and which is proven true to me over and over again, is the game master doesn't scare players. The players scare the players. It's very often what you don't tell them, what you leave out, that gets them thinking and makes situations much more suspenseful. The hints of what's going on rather than explicitly describing it, that makes things quite suspenseful. So you don't have to do a heck of a lot of work. Let the players, feel that suspense because of their own imaginings. And I think in this particular situation, that can happen fairly easily. You don't have to do very much. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. Day 29 is Connect. And well, it's modified by Excited, according to our mighty D4. That's interesting. So thinking about this a little bit, I've decided that these entities, these whatever they are, what was that? Man, that's wild. Somebody's mowing their lawn. These entities, they're excited about connecting with human beings. This is because they want to have tea and cookies? I don't think so. It sounds an awful lot like, would it be possession? Could be, seeing as they're kind of envious of human beings. They want to connect with them somehow, and they're getting more and more excited about this possibility. What could possibly go wrong? Day 30 is Experience, and our modifier is Grateful. So we're going to go off campaign situation for a moment and just talk about the experience of RPGs. That's why I play them. I don't play them to create a story. I don't play them necessarily for the challenges, although those are exciting, and the story that is produced when we look back at it can be pretty cool. But what I'm really there for is the experience of being the character. And I am grateful for having had the experience for years now, for decades, of being able to play RPGs, of finding this hobby, back when I was really, really young, putting it down occasionally, picking it back up. But for the experience I've had with, lots of people all over the world now, and playing these games and being able to discuss the games, for the experiences that we've had together, and for being able to inhabit some characters and, be involved in some situations that in my regular life I never would have been able to even come close to. And even for the experience of exploring, say, like things that I might have been afraid to do, but experiencing them through my characters first, and making me a little bit more confident in taking on similar situations in the real world. Maybe not going into ruins like, where like crazy, cosmic horrors are, but you know what I mean. So really grateful for the continued experience of this hobby. And day 31 is reward, and it was modified by a subject, and the subject was character, which is very apropos. So once again, I'm not really going to talk about this scenario that we've been developing, but just talking about the reward, the ultimate reward for me of playing role-playing games. And that is, as I alluded to in the last day, having the experience of the character. It's not what I realized that I was after when I started playing these games, but the more I played them, and then the more I discussed with my friends the phenomenon of the role-playing game experience for me, it was about inhabiting these characters, people that were different than I was, and being able to make decisions as them. I was never going to be in a lot of these situations. I was never going to be people like these people. I was never going to have to face some of the things they faced. But being able to put myself in their shoes, be done with me and who I am, is, take off Ivan as much as possible and put myself in their mindset, in their situation, and, what would I do then? And just being able to not just, play make-believe as a kid, playing out, pretending I'm this person or that person, or Luke Skywalker or Han Solo or whoever, but actually getting in the head of somebody, a unique character, and figuring out what would they do in this situation. And that has been incredibly rewarding. That's been, outside of the friendships I've developed, which is also quite rewarding. And they are some characters, let me tell you. I've had the rewarding friendship with many a character, but the reward of actually being able to have the experience of these characters, the right to dream, what the GDS and GNS would call simulationism. Having that experience, that's been awesome. So I'd like to hear what your reward has been, and like to hear, I haven't watched any RPG a day this year because I didn't want to get influenced by anybody else, and I'm going to go back, and during September I'm going to have a lot of stuff to watch, and that'll be another reward. So hopefully I find your RPG a day posts and get to check them out, and that'll be rewarding, and maybe you'll be a real character. I'll talk to you later, kids.